Hi there, it's Naman. In this video I'm going to take you through the 2015 TSA past paper, showing you how to get the answer for each question. Question 1. Which one of the following best expresses the main conclusion of the above passage? Heroin and cocaine are not the only illegal drugs with a terrible impact on global health. Counterfeit medicines can also do damage. Some of these fakes contain potentially toxic chemicals, and when taken to treat a disease they can kill. Others are like homeopathic remedies. While harmless themselves, as they contain no active ingredients, they do not work as advertised. Efforts to tackle drug crime have prioritised illegal drugs and so have not dealt with crimes that are just as serious. This should now be remedied. Okay, a great indication that something is the main conclusion of the passage is that it has should, and this last line has this should now be remedied. It's what the passage is driving towards. Efforts to tackle drug crime need to prioritise counterfeit medicines just as much, or even perhaps more than illegal drugs. So looking at the options. A, heroin and cocaine have a terrible impact on global health. No, it's actually saying that while they have a terrible impact on global health, the focus has been too much on just these two types of drugs. B, counterfeit medicines can be just as dangerous as heroin and cocaine. I think this is a premise supporting the conclusion which goes further and calls for an action, which is that they need to be taken just as seriously. C, homeopathic remedies are not effective. No, again, premise that drives towards that conclusion. Because they're often not effective, they need to be taken more seriously. D, counterfeit medicines may contain toxic chemicals. Again, a reason to support the conclusion, which is E, that more should be done about these counterfeit medicines. Question 2. What combination of coins is retained by the machine? A public telephone has been vandalised and will take only 50p coins and 10p coins. A woman puts £8.50 into the phone to make a long-distance call with 25 coins. 5 10p coins are returned when she finishes the call. Okay, so we know that 5 10p coins in return when she finishes a call, so she pays 5 times 10, 50p more than she's supposed to. So the actual price of the call is £8. We need to figure out, of her 25 coins, how they added up to £8.50. It only takes 50p coins and 10p coins. Okay, so what is the maximum number of 50p coins she could have put in? Well, the maximum number to get to £8.50 would be 17, because 8 times 2 is 16, plus 1 is 17. And the maximum number if she only used 10p coins would be 85. So let's say she gave one less 50p coins. Let's say she had 16 50p coins, and then she made up with it with an additional 5 10p coins. That would give us a total of 21 coins. Okay, that doesn't work. So let's go back another 50p. Let's say she put 15 50p coins and she gave 10 10p coins, then that would get us to 25 coins. So she gave in 25 coins, 15 of those were of the 50p, and then 10 of those were of the 10p. So how does that add up? Well, this is £1, and this is £7.50. Okay, 5 of these 10p coins were returned, so there was 15 50p coins and 5 10p coins. Okay, and that leaves 3 times as many 50p as there are 10p. So the answer is D. Question 3. Which one of the following represents a flaw in the argument above? All European countries have seen a decline in the number of people who vote in elections. In the 2005 general election in the UK, only 61% of those eligible to vote did so. When this percentage is further broken down to show the number of people who voted for the political party that went on to form the government, the number is even lower. Of those who did vote, only 35% voted for the party that won power. It becomes clear, therefore, that the party voted into government did not have legitimacy, if legitimacy is defined as a government having the support of the majority of the people. Okay, so it's saying that legitimacy is defined as the government having the support of the majority of the people. The government clearly only achieved 35% of those who voted, and not everybody who could voted. And so the missing clauses are, therefore the party received less than the support of the majority of the people, and therefore the government was illegitimate. But the jump from the second to the third premise, that they had less than 50% of the vote, meant that they had less than 50% of the popular support, is fallacious, right? It may be that those who didn't vote actually did support the government, and they chose not to vote because they thought it was going to win, for example. So let's look at the options. A, those eligible to vote did not forfeit the right to criticise the composition of the government. No, this is irrelevant. B, a government may have the support of eligible voters who did not exercise the right to vote. Exactly. C, the responsibility for lack of legitimacy lies with non-voters, not the government. C, again, irrelevant. Whether or not it's non-voters or the government who has responsibility for legitimacy, we're questioning whether the government is legitimate based on the definition provided. D, the argument does not give an explanation for the decline in voting. No, it doesn't need to. E, the definition of legitimacy needs to be revised in light of the lower voter turnout. So no, the argument is going to be logical if, given the definition it provides, the conclusion it reaches is valid. So we shouldn't criticise the definition it's provided, and we certainly shouldn't criticise it on this grounds. So the answer is B. Question 4. Which one of the following can be drawn as a conclusion from the above passage? Only John Lewis, the nationally adored and trusted UK retail group, can get away with the shamelessly sentimental marketing that they do. More than 100,000 people watched and re-watched on YouTube in the first week it was available, their most popular, Always a Woman advertisement. If anyone else had dreamt it up, they would have been pillared as sexist and out of touch. In it, John Lewis offers a politically incorrect view of modern womanhood. Pair bonding and breeding are significant milestones, they say, not making CEO of a company. Surprisingly, however, figures show that the retailer has magnificently outperformed every single rival. Let's have a look at the options because it's not particularly clear. So A, the British public will accept anything from John Lewis. I think that's too strong. I think it's the British public will accept things from John Lewis that they wouldn't accept from others, but not necessarily anything. B, marketing that plays on our emotions is morally reprehensible. I don't think they're criticising necessarily. I mean, they do call it shamelessly sentimental, but I think the key criticism here is that it plays on our emotions, but that it is sexist and out of touch. C, marriage and motherhood suit women more than business achievement. I don't think it's calling for that at all. It actually says these views are sexist and out of touch. D, the number of hits on YouTube is a good measure of success. I don't think that would be a conclusion of the passage. I think that would be maybe an assumption of the passage. E, in the right hand, an appeal to sentiment can be a successful marketing tool. So I think this is a reasonable conclusion from the passage. In the right hand is key because in the hands of John Lewis, this could be done, but in other hands, it might not be able to be successful. But this appeal to sentiment that they've made has magnificently outperformed every single rival. It has been successful. So I think there's enough in the passage to justify this conclusion. So I think the answer is E. Question 5. Which one of the following is an underlying assumption of the above argument? Underlying assumption, unstated in the passage, but key to get towards its conclusion. In the 1920s and 1930s, there were successes for extremist parties in elections across Europe. Several of these parties formed governments and were directly involved in starting the Second World War. In recent elections, extremist parties were particularly successful at the expense of the more traditional parties. It is possible that this dangerous situation will get worse. Our schools must teach children about the link between extremist politics and war in order to reduce the likelihood of future wars. So there's a few assumptions here. One, that the rise or the success of extremist parties necessarily led to their contribution to the Second World War, and other reasons that Second World War was brought about. Two, that the rise of extremist parties, again, is under sufficiently similar conditions that we can expect this to be a dangerous situation. And three, that actually the teaching of children of the link between extremist politics and war is effective at reducing the likelihood of future wars, which I think might be quite questionable. If the extremist politicians are already in power, I don't see necessarily that changing the views of children is going to affect what those extremist politicians do. So let's look at the options. A, events in history inevitably repeat themselves in the future. I don't think it requires such a strong assumption. It may be assuming that what has happened in the past gives an indication of what's dangerous or likely to happen in the future, but doesn't say that it inevitably repeats itself. B, it is not the job of parents to teach children about politics. I don't think it assumes that. It could be the job of parents to teach children about politics and also the job of schools to teach children about politics, or also beneficial for schools to teach children about politics even if it's not their job. C, teaching about the link between extremist politics and the war will cause fewer people to vote for extremist parties. I think this is assumed, that there is some kind of link between schools teaching about this link and the incidence of future wars being reduced. And that seems necessarily to be through fewer people voting for these extremist parties. D, extremism is the main reason that countries go to war. It's not assuming that generally it's the main reason that countries go to war, but that it's a key reason that countries could go to war. E, the recent election success of extremist parties will continue to grow. It doesn't need to assume that. They could be sufficiently strong for there to be danger of war already. Question 6. How long after putting the beef in the oven should he put in the potatoes so that both will be ready to serve at the same time? William wants to cook roast beef and potatoes for himself and 4 friends, so there's 5 of them. From his cookbook, he gets the following information. After removing from the oven, the meat should be allowed to stand for 10 minutes. William buys a joint of the correct weight and decides to cook it medium rare in a hot oven. Okay, How long after putting the beef in the oven should you put in potatoes so that both will be ready to serve at the same time? Okay, so we need to find out how long are the potatoes going to take, how long are the beef going to take. Let's first look at how long the beef's going to take. Okay. Okay, allow 300 grams per person, there's 5 of them, so we need 1.5 kilograms. Okay, what setting does he want it done to? Medium rare, so we can ignore this and this. He wants it medium rare, and he's doing it in a hot oven, so we can ignore this. Okay, so it's 15 minutes per 500 grams plus 15 minutes. So 1.5 kilograms divided by 500 grams is 3. 3 times 15 is 45 minutes. Plus 15 minutes gives us 1 hour. So it's going to take 1 hour to cook in the hot oven. Okay, and then it needs to stand for 10 minutes. How long after putting the beef in the oven should you put in the potatoes so they need to be ready to serve at the same time? So including the 10 minutes, the beef is going to take 1 hour and 10 minutes to be ready. Okay, the roast potatoes are also going to go in the hot oven. I think we can assume that they're going to go in the hot oven because that's the oven he has. So that's going to take 30 minutes. And so going back 30 minutes, 1 hour 10 minus 30 minutes is 40 minutes. So it's 40 minutes after putting the beef in the oven, he needs to put the potatoes in there as well. So the answer is D. Which student will be awarded the prize? A teacher is going to award a prize to her most deserving people in the current school year. She has narrowed it down to 5 students and must make her final judgments. She won't give the prize to anyone who has been late to her lessons more than twice. She won't give it to anyone who has failed to complete more than 2 pieces of homework by the deadline set. After these criteria has been met, the prize will be awarded to the student with the fewest non-A grade pieces of work. Okay, really simple. And let's just check. We've got 5 here and we've got 5 here. Okay, so let's use the first criteria. Anyone who has been late to her lessons more than twice isn't eligible. Okay, number of times late for a lesson. So Grace isn't eligible because it's more than twice. Okay, won't give it to anyone who has failed to complete more than 2 pieces of homework by the deadline set. So it needs to have at least 3 pieces of homework late and then they're not going to be considered. Okay, homework's completed by the deadline. How many homeworks were they set? Okay, so here 4 were late, so it can't be Andrew. Here 0 were late, so it can be Carol. Edward, 3 were late, so it can't be Edward. And Ian, 1 was late, so it can be Ian. Just to be clear about what I've done, I've compared the number of homeworks set for each pupil with the number of homeworks completed by the deadline, and then you can find out the number of homeworks that were not completed by the deadline. Okay, of Carol and Ian, we're going to award the prize to the one with the fewest non-A grade pieces of work. Okay, so very similar again, we're going to take the number of homeworks with grade A from the number of homeworks that were completed by the deadline. For Carol, 3 pieces of work were non-grade A and completed by the deadline, and for Ian, there was 1 piece of work that was non-grade A and completed by the deadline, and 2 pieces of work that were either non-grade A or not completed by the deadline. Either way, Ian wins. So the answer is E. Which one of the following graphs provides a good representation of a plankton production in the southern polar region? Okay, plankton are small plants and animals present in the sea. The animal plankton feed on the plant plankton. The rate at which the plant plankton are produced depends on sea temperature and the amount of sunlight. In tropical regions, there is little variation of plankton production throughout the year. Variations are much bigger at temperate and polar latitudes. Plant plankton production always rises before that of animal plankton. Okay, so let's just check here. The plant plankton always has to rise before animal plankton. So it looks like it can't be E, but let's just check the information first. Following graphs show the production rates of plankton in the northern hemisphere. Yeah, we see plant rise before animal, plant rise before animal. In the northern hemisphere, winter is in December, January, and February. In the southern hemisphere, it's in June, July, and August. Okay, so I think what we want is the same as what we have here, but just take into account the different seasonality. So what we see in December, January, and February should instead be what we see in June, July, and August in the south. And what we see in December, January, February in the north is production rates seem to be dipping for both plant and animal. So let's look at June, July, August, June, July, August, June, July, August, July, August. Okay, so for B, it doesn't look like they're dipping, so it doesn't look like it can be B. For A, we don't really see significant rise and fall at all, so I don't think it doesn't look very similar to the northern hemisphere at all. So I don't think it's going to be A. And then we have to choose between C and D. Well, in June, July, August, we don't see the significant dipping that we see in the winter period in the northern region, so I don't think this is right. I think it is D. Which of the following, if true, most weakens the above argument? A study of shooting victims in Philadelphia has found that people who carry guns are far more likely to be shot than those who are unarmed. Research at the University of Pennsylvania looked at 677 shootings over 2.5 years, taking into account various factors such as the age and socioeconomic status of those involved. The researchers concluded that armed citizens were 4 times more likely to get shot and 4.2 times more likely to get killed than those who are unarmed. Therefore, it is significantly safer not to carry a gun in Philadelphia. Okay, so the big thing here is the conclusion: it's significantly safer not to carry a gun in Philadelphia. So anything that gives us reason to think that either the research is shoddy or the researcher's conclusion is insufficient to get to the paragraph's conclusion, which is that it's significantly safer not to carry a gun in Philadelphia. So, for example, it may be that if you don't carry a gun in Philadelphia, you're much more likely to suffer from other kinds of harm, maybe knife attacks or something. But let's have a look at the options. A, some of those shot were carrying concealed weapons. I don't think that's relevant. I'm assuming here that whether the weapons were concealed or not, they were able to be found eventually. B, people carrying guns have a sense of empowerment. It doesn't weaken the argument. Maybe you have a sense of empowerment, but you still are less safe as a result of carrying the gun. C, people who are at risk of getting shot are more likely to carry a gun. Okay, so this would give us an indication that the research is shoddy, that actually the reason they find this correlation with having a gun and getting shot is not because now that you've got a gun you're more likely to get shot, but because you of other factors that mean you're more likely to get shot, you're actually more likely to carry a gun to protect yourself. So I think C is the answer. D, people carrying guns are likely to overreact in potentially violent situations. Now, this would strengthen the argument of the passage because it would give us more reason to think that you're going to put yourself in danger if you carry a gun. E, the bearing of arms protected by the Second Amendment of the US Constitution. Irrelevant, whether it is or it isn't. It may be that you're significantly safer choosing not to bear arms. So the answer is C. Which of the following identifies the flaw in the reasoning in the above argument? Recurring dreams, those that you keep on having time after time, make good sense when you think of them as messages from your unconscious. Some messages are too important to send just once, in case you don't understand them the first time around or don't realise their importance. So, a recurring dream must contain a message that is worth repeating over and over. Okay. So the clear flaw here is just because that would be a good reason for dreams to recur, doesn't mean it's the only reason or the best reason to explain why dreams occur, right? So it's similar to a situation where if I wanted to attract attention, it would be a good reason for me to go out with a big hat, right? But just because I have a big hat, that doesn't mean that I've chosen to wear it to draw attention to myself. Do you see? In the same way, a good reason to have a recurring dream might be to give yourself a message, but that doesn't mean that recurring dreams are occurring because the unconscious is trying to send you a message. So let's have a look at the options. A, supernatural explanations for natural events do not make any sense. No. B, even if an explanation makes good sense, it is not necessarily true. Exactly. Just because this is one of the good reasons doesn't mean it's the best reason or the only reason. C, not everyone remembers the dreams that they've had. Irrelevant. Maybe you're getting the message to your consciousness and then internalizing it in some way. Don't necessarily have to remember it to internalize it. D, not all dreams contain messages. No, but some of them might. E, sometimes we may dream that we've had a dream before. Bizarre and irrelevant. So the answer is B. Question 11. Which of the following best expresses the main conclusion of the above argument? Conspicuous consumption does not make us happy. Buying a flashy car sends a message. I've got so many resources, I can afford to squander them. Paying more for organic food signals another desirable trait, conscientiousness. We put too much effort into sending signals that don't actually impress others and cause us stress. We evolved into emotionally well-balanced individuals thousands of years ago. To be truly happy now, we should devote more time to the activities that dominated life back then. Being at one with nature, being with children, or holding face-to-face conversations. We need to evaluate our lives and make sure they include many of the things we were doing 250,000 years ago. Okay, so I think the main conclusion is we need to evaluate our lives and make sure that we are doing the things we were doing 250,000 years ago. And it gives us several premises to support this. 1, our current lifestyle isn't making us happy. 2, we've been evolved into emotionally balanced individuals thousands of years ago. And 3, the things that we were doing at that time period were making us happy. So let's have a look at the options. A, sending out signals to impress others is a waste of time. So I think this is one of the things the passage is saying, but it's not the main action it's driving towards. It's not just saying that we shouldn't be sending out those signals, it's saying that we should actually be doing more of the things we were doing 250,000 years ago. B, we need to decide what is really important in our lives. No, it's not about making an evaluation of what's important in our lives and having more of that. It's about having more of the things that we had 250,000 years ago. C, our ancestors were emotionally better balanced than we are today. No, it's telling us to do certain things to make sure that we're emotionally better balanced like our ancestors were. D, to be really happy, we should behave more like our ancestors did. Exactly. E, today's complex and competitive lifestyle makes us discontented and happy. Yes, this is one of the premises driving towards the conclusion that we should have a lifestyle like of the kind we had 250,000 years ago. Question 12. Which one of the following conclusions can be justifiably drawn from the results? A market research company conducted a survey into the relative popularity of two soft drinks with the following results. All figures are percentages. The same number of people were surveyed in each age group. Okay, so each of the age groups makes up 25% of the total. So let's have a look at the options. A, drink A is consistently more popular than drink B. This is clearly not true because in this age group, 25 to 35, drink B is more popular. B, there were more people with a preference to drink B than with no preference. We need to calculate this. So we're going to add up these four, and we're going to add up these four and see which is higher. So this is 51, plus 33 is 84, plus 19 is going to be 103. And then 33 plus 12 is going to be 45, plus 22 is going to be 67, plus 34 is going to be 101. And yes, there were more people with preference to drink B than there were for no preference. So the answer is going to be B. Let's have a look at the other options. So C, more people in the age group 5 to 15 expressed a preference than did not. So the number that didn't express a preference was 52%. So actually that's not true. More people did not express a preference than did. D, fewer people had a preference than those who did not. What we'll do is we'll total up these percentages, divide by 4, and if it's higher than 50%, then more people had a preference, had no preference than had a preference. So this is going to be 52. This is going to be 31, 35, and 57. 52 plus 31 is 83, plus 35 is 118, plus 57 is 175. So 175 divided by 4 is going to be less than 50, because 200 divided by 4 is 50. And so less than 50% had either no preference or don't know. So more than 50% had some kind of preference. So this is incorrect. More people had a preference than those who did not. E, more than 20% of people did not know what they preferred. So it's quite clear if we added these up and divided by 4, it's going to come to less than 20. But let's just check anyway. 19 plus 19 is 38, plus 13 is 51, plus 23 is 74. 74 divided by 4 is going to be less than 20, because of course 80 divided by 4 is 20. And so less than 20% of people did not know which they preferred. The answer is B. At the beginning of which month was the tariff changed? Okay, my monthly electricity bill was calculated as a standing charge plus an amount per unit used. At the beginning of one month, my electricity company decided to change the tariff by reducing the standing charge and increasing the cost per unit. This was intended to help customers use less electricity. Table below shows my consumption and monthly charges for the whole year. Okay, so the standing charge was reduced and the cost per unit went up. We need to find out which month that happened. We know that x plus 125y is equal to this, because x is a standing charge and y is the cost per unit. Okay, what we need to do is set up a simultaneous equation so we can find out what x and y are, and then we can find out when they've changed. So here, assuming that nothing has changed, it's going to be x plus 150y is equal to 45. So let's see, based on that assumption, what each would be. So the difference in cost is £2.50, and that is entirely made up of 25y, because everything else is the same, right? So y is going to be equal to 2.5 divided by 25, which is going to be 0.1. So it's 10 pence per unit, assuming January and February have the same standing charge. And now we're going to find the standing charge. We know that February will have an easier number, so let's use that one. So let's say x plus 150y is equal to 45. We know that y is 10p, so that's x plus £15 is equal to 45, so x is equal to 30. Okay, on this basis, let's calculate. Let's check y's, where we know that x is 30. Let's check March's, and y is 0.1. So for March, it should be £30 plus £13, which should be £43. Yeah, that's exactly right. For April, it should be £30 plus £11, which should be 41. Exactly. Let's check what the options are so far. We know it's not these. Let's check August. So August, it should be £30 plus £7, so it should be £37, exactly. For September, it should be £30 plus £8, so £38. Whoa, it's not. So clearly September is the answer. Which of the following can be inferred from these tables? A survey has shown the following relationships between parent occupation, type of school, and educational success and GCSE level. So let's look at the options. All children of managerial class parents attended independent schools. Doesn't look like we'd be able to identify that at all. No, so it looks like they've just said, well, 7.2 on average GCSEs at C or above were achieved by those with managerial parents, and then 7.2 average at independent schools, but that's not enough to decide that. these are the same parents. So B, the majority of children whose parents are office workers attended independent schools. No, it doesn't look like we have enough to obtain that. It could be that there's very few children with parents who are office workers, and they make up the very high performers, say, at specialist maintained schools or at local authority comprehensives. C, school type is more important than parent or occupation in determining educational success. No, we can't talk about anything determining success here. This is just correlation. D, the parental background of children in independent schools is more restricted than those of children in comprehensive schools. So it does look like, in order for these figures to match up, that there has to have a high proportion of these independent schools children from professional, managerial, routine office work backgrounds. But when we talk about restricted, it could also be that these schools have restricted backgrounds, but those backgrounds are restricted to these kinds of parents. So I'm not sure if I would go ahead with that one. Let's have a look at E. Factors other than type of school attended may be important in determining educational success. So yes, I think it is E, because there's an indication here that parental occupation may be important in determining educational success of children, and that correlation needs to be examined. And so I think may be important, sufficient evidence behind this statement. So I think the answer is E. Question 15. Which of the following conclusions is best supported by the passage above? Currently, 56% of British school children do not study a foreign language at all at GCSE, and 7 university language departments have closed in the past 7 years. People with only one language feel disempowered, whereas those who speak other languages are comfortable to travel the world. Once you can speak their languages, some of the mystique of foreigners goes away, and you feel less intimidated by them. Good language skills are also important in the international business world. Okay, so I think let's have a look at the options here. I think reasonable conclusions would be that there's value in teaching foreign languages, and that maybe some of this value is being missed in Britain. So let's have a look at the options. A, British education does not adequately equip people to interact in a global environment. I think this is quite a strong conclusion. I think a more reasonable conclusion would British education could better equip people to interact in a global environment. Whether they're adequately equipped, there may be many other requirements of interacting in a global environment other than being able to speak foreign languages, which British education is excelling at. So let's have a look at the other options. B, if Britons were more proficient in languages, they would enjoy holidays overseas more. I think that's quite a strong conclusion. They might feel more comfortable when travelling the world, but to say that they would enjoy the holidays more, I think is a bit too strong. A lot goes into a holiday other than just being comfortable. C, the drop in language learning in Britain has put many language teachers out of work, definitely unrelated. D, Britons do not see the need to learn other languages as most foreigners learn English, unrelated. E, the poor language skills of British businessmen are holding back many potentially lucrative deals. Okay, I think that's too strong as well. So I think A must be the answer. I think it is a little bit too strong, but there we go. I think now is a good time in the video just to say, if you are finding this helpful, please do let me know by liking it or by leaving a comment. And if there's anything else that we might be able to provide online or on this channel that could help you with your TSA preparation, please let us know. Question 16, which of the following is an underlying assumption of the above argument? Underlying assumption meaning it's not stating the passage, but it's required in order for the passage's conclusion to be valid. School science lessons were once the place of bangs, flashes, smells, blood, and droplets of mercury on the bench. Few, if any, people ever died from these experiences. Now the activities that once made science fun are rare, banned on health and safety grounds. It has been reported that governments are concerned about the increasing percentage of students enrolling in science courses at universities. If they do wish to reverse this trend, they need to take steps to curtail the pervasive health and safety culture in which we now live. Okay, I think the key assumption here is that there's a link here between increased health and safety and the decline of people enrolling in science courses, which may be completely unrelated. So let's look at the options. A, it does not matter if only a few people died as a result of school science levels. It's not saying it doesn't matter, but it's saying that if we want to reverse this trend, we need to be able to accept a curtailment of the health and safety culture. B, doing exciting activities in science levels leads to a higher take-up of science courses at universities. So I think this is the link that it's requiring. C, there's no reason to ban science practicals that are only minimally dangerous. It's not assuming that. It doesn't actually say that they should take these steps. It's saying if they want to reverse the trend, they need to take the steps. But maybe that's not a reasonable goal. D, health and safety legislation has only had a negative effect on education. It doesn't assume that. I think it recognises it's had a helpful, it may have had some kind of helpful effect, but that helpful effect needs to be balanced against its negative effect. E, science is only fun if it is dangerous. I think that's too strong an assumption. I don't think it requires that science is only fun if it's dangerous, or that science is often fun when it's dangerous, or science would be more fun if it were allowed to be more dangerous more often. So I think the answer is B. Question 17. Which one of the following, if true, most strengthens the above argument? In the UK, house prices have risen at far greater rates than inflation, fueled by unprecedented levels of borrowing. Because of these high prices, owning their own home has become unaffordable for many people. Those who are able to own their own home must do so burdened by a huge level of debt. Since the recent financial crisis can be attributed in part to those who are unable to meet their repayments on their debts, government should attempt to tackle the problem at its root and take action to prevent a continued rise in house prices above the level of inflation. Okay, so this argument is driving towards the government taking action to deal with high levels of house prices. So anything that tells us this is a serious problem, that it is being driven by borrowing, which is one of the passage's key claims, or that the government action will be effective in tackling the problem, will strengthen the argument. So let's have a look at the options. A, the gap between the average house price and average salary has continued to widen over the past 5 years. Yes, this gives us even more reason to think this is a serious problem that the government needs to address. B, house prices have fallen sharply and are no longer increasing at such dramatic rates. No, that undermines the case for it being a serious problem, or one that the government needs to address because it's going away by itself. C, mortgage companies are more reluctant to lend money without substantial deposits. Again, this would undermine the passage because it would suggest that the problem isn't actually driven by inappropriate borrowing. D, there are few practical interventions the government can make to lower house prices. Undermines the passage because it suggests that the government can't take any action, or its action would be ineffective. E, many people are dependent on the value of their property increasing more than the value of their loan in order to pay off the mortgage. Again, this would undermine the passage because this would actually say that a rising house prices may have good implications, and that there might be sort of concerns about attempting to cut house prices for those people who currently own homes. Question 18. What procedure should the exam officer adopt to work out how many students to have in each room? There are 420 candidates sitting a public exam in a college. The sports hall can accommodate 210 students. Once this has been filled, there are other rooms available that are much smaller. The following is a list of the number of single desks that has been set up in each room. Okay. The rooms have sufficient space for all the candidates who are not in the sports hall. The exams officer wants to leave the same number of empty desks in each of these rooms. Okay. So how can they adopt a procedure to work out how many students to have in each room? I think the quickest thing to do here is to look through the options and just try to find out which of those would work. So the first option is to divide the total number of candidates by the total number of workspace in each room and take that number away from the capacity of each of the rooms. So let's try that. It will be helpful to know how many there are here anyway. So 26 plus 20 is 46, plus 24 is 70, plus 28 is 98, plus 24 is 122, plus 20 is 142, plus 24 is 166, plus 16 is 182, plus 20 is 202, plus 18 is 220, plus 26 is 246. Okay, so we have 246 here, plus the sports hall, which fits 210, so that would be 456. Okay, so they want us to divide the total number of candidates by the total number of workspaces in each room. So there's 420 candidates, and they want us to divide this by the total number of workspaces in each room. Oh, I see. What they want us to do is say, okay, for the sports hall, 420 divided by 210 is divisible by 2. So then we'd have, so that's how many students to have in that room. So we'd only have 2 students in this room. That doesn't make any sense. I think that A doesn't make any sense at all. B, add up the total capacity of the rooms, which we got to 246 at 456. Okay. Subtract the total number of candidates from that figure, so that would leave us with 36. Divide the result by the total number of rooms. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 rooms. Okay, so that would be 3. And then subtract the number from the capacity of each room. So we'd have 3 spare in each room. Yeah, that sounds like it works. I think the answer is B. Let's have a look at the other options. C, add up the total capacity of the rooms, okay, 456. Subtract the total number of candidates from that figure, which gives us 36. Divide the result by the total number of rooms, 36 divided by 12 rooms is 3. Subtract that number from the capacity of each room. Okay, sorry, I made a little mistake. Really careful here. Subtract that number, subtract the total number of candidates from that number, so it's C, not B. Just phrased a little bit differently. So just to be clear here, in B, what they want us to do is 420 minus 456, total number of candidates minus the total number of total capacity, whereas in C, we take the total capacity and we minus from that the total number of candidates. And this one actually gets us 36, whereas this one gets us minus 36, and we get lots of problems from that. So D, divide the total capacity by the number of students. So this is 456 divided by 420, okay, which is 1 remainder 36. And then take that number away from the capacity of each room. No, we're not going to take away 1 remainder 36 from each room. That's not possible. E, add up the total capacity of the rooms, 456, and divide by the total number of candidates. Again, we do 1 remainder 36. Multiply that number by the total number of rooms, which gives us total number of students placed in each room. No, because we'll have, we definitely can't do that, because 1 remainder 36 multiplied by 12 rooms will give us, it won't give us necessarily an even number of candidates in each room. And anyway, that won't give us the same number of empty desks in each room if all the rooms have the same number of candidates, because not all of the rooms have the same capacity. So the answer is C. Question 19. What is the lowest total cost of a complete marquee package plus tables and chairs for Steve and Jen's reception? Okay. Steve and Jen are getting married and would like to have their reception in a marquee. There will be 80 people attending in total, and they would like to have the most expensive tables and chairs. 8 people will sit at each table. The capacity for our marquee can be worked out using the industry standard of allowing 3 meters squared per person. Okay, let's start with the marquee. We know that they need 3 meters squared per person. There's going to be 80 people there, so they need 240 meters squared. Okay, let's look at the marquees here. Okay, we need to figure out which marquees are going to give them 240 meters squared. We can ignore the feet measurement. So here it's going to be 18, too small, 36, too small, 54, 72, 90, whatever this is, it's going to be too small, 27, 54, 81, 108, 135. So we know this is going to be too small. Let's jump to this one. This is going to be 189, still too small. Okay, so we can jump to the bottom. This is going to be too big at 270. So let's go back to this one. 9 times 27 is going to be 270 minus 27, which is going to be 243. 243 is going to be the neatest match. So 9 to 24 is clearly going to be too small. So this is going to be the one, £730 marquee. Okay, fantastic. Now we need to find the tables and chairs. Now, how many tables are we going to need? Well, 8 people per table, so we're going to need 10 tables. How many chairs are we going to need? Well, every person needs an individual chair, so 80 chairs. Okay, and she'd like to have the most expensive table and chairs. Oh, one second. When I talked about the marquee, we are concerned with the complete marquee package, not just the cost of the marquee, so we should be focusing on this number here. Okay, so we're going to add to that now the cost of the chairs and the tables. She wants the most expensive chairs, which are going to be these ones, and £2.40 times by 80. So 2.4 times by 8. So that's the same as 24 times by 8, which is going to be 32, 16, 19, £192. Okay, 192. And then for the tables, we want to have round tables that seat 8, and we want 10 of them, and that's going to cost £60. So together that's £252. We add that to the package cost of 1385. We get 7, 3, 1, 6, 1637, D. Question 19. What is the lowest total cost of a complete marquee package plus tables and chairs for Steve and Jen's reception? Okay. Steve and Jen are getting married and would like to have their reception in a marquee. There will be 80 people attending in total, and they would like to have the most expensive tables and chairs. 8 people will sit at each table. The capacity for our marquee can be worked out using the industry standard of allowing 3 meters squared per person. Okay, let's start with the marquee. We know that they need 3 meters squared per person. There's going to be 80 people there, so they need 240 meters squared. Okay, let's look at the marquees here. Ooh, okay, we need to figure out which marquees are going to give them 240 meters squared. We can ignore the feet measurement. So here it's going to be 18, too small, 36, too small, 54, 72, 90, whatever this is, it's going to be too small, 27, 54, 81, 108, 135. So we know this is going to be too small. Let's jump to this one. This is going to be 189, still too small. Okay, so we can jump to the bottom. This is going to be too big at 270. So let's go back to this one. 9 times 27 is going to be 270 minus 27, which is going to be 243. 243 is going to be the neatest match. So 9 to 24 is clearly going to be too small. So this is going to be the one, £730 marquee. Okay, fantastic. Now we need to find the tables and chairs. Now, how many tables are we going to need? Well, 8 people per table, so we're going to need 10 tables. How many chairs are we going to need? Well, every person needs an individual chair, so 80 chairs. Okay, and she'd like to have the most expensive table and chairs. Oh, one second. When I talked about the marquee, we are concerned with the complete marquee package, not just the cost of the marquee, so we should be focusing on this number here. Okay, so we're going to add to that now the cost of the chairs and the tables. She wants the most expensive chairs, which are going to be these ones, and £2.40 times by 80. That's the same as 24 times by 8, which is going to be 32, 16, 19, £192. And then for the tables, we want to have round tables that seat 8, and we want 10 of them, and that's going to cost £60. So together that's £252. We add that to the package cost of 1385, we get 7, 3, 6, 1637, D. Question 20. Which one of the 5 graphs shows last year's results? The maths sets at Newton Comprehensive are identified by their teacher's name. Each year, the head of maths gives the same test to all the maths sets at the end of year 7, calculates the average marks for each set, and then produces the results on a bar chart in ascending order. He's asked to present the graphs for the last 5 years to the Board of Governors. Unfortunately, when they were cut and pasted onto one sheet, the years were missed off. Okay, cool. So we need to figure out which of the graphs show last year's results. Okay, a lot of this information is unnecessary. We just need to take this and find out which of these matches to it. Okay, so we know that the highest is going to be 82 and the lowest is going to be 20. So the highest should be 4 times the size of the lowest. Okay, it's helpful to note that you have 5 bar lines here, and so we can assume that each one is 20% and see if that helps, and if it doesn't work, we'll imagine a different scale. But assuming each line is 20%, we know that the bottom one should be at exactly 20%, so anything else isn't going to work. And the top one should be a little bit above the 80% line, so this isn't going to work. This could work, this could work. Okay, and then between those we have 36, so that should be around here, yeah, that's about right. That should be around here, that's about right. 57, so 57 should be around here, pretty close to the 60. Oh, there's a 49 as well, see. Okay, so the 49 should be around here, yeah. No, it shouldn't be around here, this is about 42, right? So it can't be D, the answer is E. Question 21. Which one of the following identifies the flaw in the above argument? We need a fair policy for dealing with drivers whose ability is impaired by drugs, such as cannabis, amphetamines and cocaine. Setting limits for driving under the influence of drugs may be difficult. Tests would be necessary for the levels in the blood of each of the drugs. But such limits may not reflect the complex interactions between drugs and their effect on driving. A driver may be severely impaired, but under the limit for each individual drug. Also, setting a legal limit for the use of a substance that is illegal seems self-contradictory. So to solve the problem of drug driving, there should be a new offence of driving with any level of illegal drug in the body. This would make it much easier to catch and convict drug drivers, the ultimate deterrent. So the key thing here the passage is saying is that the problem of drug driving can be solved by a new offence of driving with any level of illegal drug in the body. Now the obvious problem with that, perhaps, is that this would only tackle the problem of illegal drug driving. There may be legal drugs that are dangerous to your driving ability. So let's look at the options. A, some countries have legalized the drugs that impair driving ability. I think this is close to the flaw, but I think it's not phrased in the way I would like. I think this implies more that in some of these countries, cannabis, amphetamines, cocaine may be legal, in which case the logical solution would be to make those drugs illegal. Whereas the point that I'm making is that there's sort of other drugs that are maybe reasonably illegal that may impair driving, things like prescription-based drugs. B, drivers whose ability was not impaired may be convicted. I don't think that's a flaw of the passage. Remember, when we're looking for a flaw, it needs to be something in the logical argument of the passage that makes it invalid. Here, the conclusion, this doesn't undermine the conclusion that the passage is driving towards, it just gives you maybe a disadvantage of this solution. It's not saying that this wouldn't solve the problem of drug driving, but that it might create new problems. C, some legally available drugs may impair driving ability. Exactly. It cannot solve the problem of drug driving as a whole because it doesn't deal with the problem of legal drug driving. D, drivers may not be aware of the effect of drugs on driving ability. Again, it doesn't seem to be relevant whether they're aware of the effect or not. E, some illegal drugs can improve driving ability. Okay, but those are outside the scope of this because they wouldn't be part of the problem of drug driving. Question 22. Which one of the following most closely parallels the reasoning used in the above argument? Adding fluoride to the water supply would not, as some claim, improve dental health. If fluoride really did improve dental health, one would expect people living in areas where water is naturally fluoridated to have healthier teeth than people whose water is fluoride-free. In fact, research suggests that there is no difference in dental health between the two groups. Okay, so this one's much harder to put in the typical algebra formula that I use, but what I'd say here is we have a conclusion and it's based off the application of this expectation, right? So we have an expectation that if fluoride were really impactful in improving dental health, we'd expect to see something. We don't see that thing, and so therefore we reach the conclusion that fluoride doesn't improve dental health, right? So we're looking for an expectation, an observation that doesn't match the expectation, and then a conclusion on the basis of that. So let's look at the options. A, if badgers still lived in this set, there will be badger droppings at its entrance. Since there are no droppings, there are no badgers here. I think this matches it. There's an expectation, there's an observation, and there's a conclusion on the basis of that. So the way I would eliminate B, C, and D is quite straightforward. It's just to say that we don't see this framing of an expectation. So none of them is there. If A, then we'd expect to see B. We don't see B, therefore A. B, the only animals in Britain that leave little piles of soil all over the lawn are moles, so those piles of soil on our lawn mean we have moles. C, the chicken house needs to be secured against foxes. There are definitely foxes living in this area. If any foxes get into the chicken house, they will kill the chickens. So there we don't get any conclusion. We actually end with the expectation. D, the strange noise we heard last night may not have been a hedgehog. I cannot think what else it could have been. I know for a fact there are hedgehogs around the area. So that's not based on anything like the structure we have in the passage. And E, if there were grey squirrels in an area, it is unlikely there are any red squirrels. The animals we just saw were grey squirrels, so there are probably not any red squirrels in this area. One of the reasons why I wouldn't go with E is because it uses the word probably, and I think the passage is much more definitive in drawing its conclusion. Question 23. Which one of the following illustrates the principle used in the above argument? Inhabitants of towns and roads with odd names often complain that property values are lower and that they face embarrassment when describing where they live. People have a right to decide as a community what is in the best interests of that community, and therefore local residents should have the right to rename their town or road if they wish. So it's a good indication of the principle is when it talks in general terms and when it uses phrases like rights, they should, it is only fair that. These kind of phrases indicate that you're talking about a general principle. And so here we can identify the general principle as being this one. People have a right to decide as a community what is in the best interests of that community. So let's have a look at the options and see which one of those applies that principle. A, residents of an area, not central government agencies, should be able to decide where new school buildings are located. That seems to be about right. They're deciding in that case what is in the best interest of the community in deciding where the new school building should be located. B, town planning needs to be conducted by outside agencies to avoid neglecting the interests of all groups. No, it's saying that people should decide as a community, which I would expect is an inside agency. C, mayors should be elected only on the basis of their abilities, not how long they lived in an area, so this seems irrelevant. D, people who have only recently moved to an area should not expect to be part of their local community. No, it doesn't decide, it doesn't give us any indication of how we should define the local community in the passage. E. School pupils should obey the rules set by the head teacher and staff. No, a better framing would be that the rules should be set by the whole school community, the head teachers, the staff, the pupils, maybe parents too. Question 24. How much tax did she pay? Nowadays, many people in the UK work out their own income tax bills. Everyone has a personal allowance, which is the amount of money they can each earn each tax year, before they start paying tax. Income above the personal allowance is taxed in bands. The UK tax bands and personal allowances for 4 tax years are shown below. And the tax year, importantly, runs from these dates. Okay, Mary's 52, her husband's 58. Her only earnings each year are from a summer job. Between 6th April 2000 and 5th April 2001, she earned this much money. How much tax did she pay? Very straightforward. Okay, so importantly, she's married, so she has a different allowance. And we can ignore the irrelevant years. We're dealing with 2000 to 2001. Okay, so we need to figure out what her allowance is. The personal allowance is relevant because she's married. Okay, the elder spouse is aged 58, so under 65. Okay, so that's actually irrelevant. So we should go return back to the personal allowance. She is aged 52, so she's aged under 65. So this is her personal allowance. Okay, let's see how much more than that she has earned. And so 5585 minus 4385 is going to be 0021. So £1,200 into the first, over the allowance. And all of that fits within the starting bracket, and she pays 10% tax on that. So she pays £120. Question 25. What approximately was the average monthly rainfall from the beginning of June to the end of September? Okay, so the graph below shows the cumulative rainfall in the UK for 2010. Okay, from the beginning of June, so from here to the end of September. So that's the beginning of October. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take the total amount of rainfall in those months, divide it by the number of months, and then we get the average rainfall. But noticing that we have cumulative rainfall here, we need to take the total at the end of at the end of September, from that minus the total at the beginning of June, and that will give us the total amount of rainfall in the months of June, July, August, September. So total rainfall at the end of September was 400 millimetres. Total rainfall at the beginning of June was about, should we say 180? That gives us 220. How many months are we talking about? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 220 divided by 4 gives us 55. Closest to that is D, which is 57. Question 26. Which graph would show how the depth of water increases as Duncan prepares his bath? Duncan's bath has a flat base and vertical sides. It can be filled completely from the hot tap in 15 minutes, or from the cold tap in 10 minutes. Its capacity is 360 litres. When preparing a bath, Duncan's habit is to run both taps together for 1.5 minutes before turning off the cold tap. He turns the hot tap off when the bath is 3/4 full, then leaves the water for a while to cool down to a suitable temperature before he climbs in. Okay, so we can get a speed for each of the hot and the cold taps. So we know that for the hot tap, 360 litres takes 15 minutes, so 360 divided by 15, which gives us 120, which is 124. Okay, so the hot gives us 24 litres a minute, and the cold is 360 over 10, so it's going to be 36 litres per minute. Okay. When preparing a bath, its habit is to run both taps for 1.5 minutes. So after 1.5 minutes, the hot has given us 24 plus 12, is given us 36 litres, and the cold has given us 36 plus 18, which is going to be 54 litres. So in total, we've reached 90 litres. Okay, and then he turns off the cold tap, so we're just running the hot until the bath is 3/4 full. Okay, so that is until we get to 3/4 of 360, which is of course 270. Okay, so for the additional 180 litres, he's just doing the hot tap. How long does that take? Well, 180 divided by 24, 430, it's 30/4, which is 7.5 minutes. Okay, so what does that tell us? That tells us that the second section of the graph should be 7.5 minutes, the first section should be 1.5 minutes. So if the first section we're doing is 1 square, the second section should be 5 squares. So let's check if any of the graphs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this one can't be it. 2, 3, 4, 5. This one could be it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one couldn't be it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one could be it. 1, 2, 3. This one couldn't be it. So it's between B and C. The second thing we know is that the depth here is 90 litres, and that the next depth is 180 litres, so it should be double that depth. So that means if this is 1 square high, this should be 2 squares high. Oh no, this is more than 2 squares high, so it can't be C. Here it is 2 squares high, so the answer is B. Question 27. Which one of the following best expresses the main conclusion of the above argument? Increasing quantities of personal data are recorded and stored on computers. For example, where you use your mobile phone or what purchases you make in the supermarket. This poses a potential threat to our privacy. The Data Protection Act forbids the use of this information for a purpose other than that for which it is collected, apart from instances in which serious crime could be prevented or detected. We must not allow this principle to be abandoned because our liberty depends on it. Although at present there is no malign political purpose to which this information is put, we cannot be certain that this will never be the case. So I think the idea it's getting behind is that there's significant risks to our liberties, our freedoms, our privacy from the misuse of our data. We need to make sure that this data is not being misused. And because we're driving towards an action, we need to make sure we should not allow this data to be misused. So let's have a look at the options. A, our liberty depends upon personal data remaining confidential. I think it is saying this, but it's driving towards an action, which is we must not allow the data protection principle to be abandoned. B. C, we cannot be certain that governments will not misuse personal data. So it doesn't actually talk about the misuse by governments specifically in this passage. I think that's too strong an inference. D, the Data Protection Act does not interfere with the detection of crime. The passage as a whole isn't really about the Data Protection Act and isn't really about crime. It's about our privacy in general. E, the recording and storing of personal data poses a threat to our privacy. This is one of the premises that it drives towards to get to the conclusion, which is an action, which is that we must not allow the data protection principle to be abandoned. Question 28. Which one of the following can be drawn as a conclusion of the passage above? Drawn as a conclusion may not be stated in the passage. That means an intensely irritating fashion among politicians of all parties is to use the soundbite, doing the right thing, to justify whatever action they have taken or propose to take. The phrase cleverly implies that if you not agree with the action, you're an immoral person, and no one wants to be that. Taken to its logical conclusion, all we need are politicians who have some sixth sense that tells them what the right thing is, and hey presto, we can trust them to act on our behalf without any need for accountability. This is nothing short of dangerous brainwashing. So what is the passage driving towards? It's driving towards politicians shouldn't use this soundbite, or we shouldn't take it very seriously when they do use the soundbite. We shouldn't give any particular importance to it. So A, soundbites are used to avoid proper explanation for decisions. So I don't think the passage is as general as that. I think it's talking about a specific soundbite. B, politicians always think they know what is the right thing to do. No, it's not actually claiming that. It's claiming that they claim to know what the right thing to do is. They may be perfectly honest with themselves. C, politicians should give proper rationales for decisions, not give soundbites. Now, I think this is a potential draw away from this passage. It's saying that this is not a reasonable rationale for them to give us. We need a more detailed explanation. D, irritating soundbites have the effect of alienating the general public. It doesn't actually give us reason to believe that the public is alienated. The public may be cleverly brainwashed, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're alienated. E, politicians prefer to avoid giving a proper rationale for their decisions. I think that's too general as well. It may be that politicians would prefer to give a proper rationale, but they don't think that it would be received well, and that they think the public prefer glib soundbites. So the answer, I think, is C. Question 29. Which one of the following is an underlying assumption of the above argument? Reminder, an assumption means it's required for the passage's conclusion to be valid, but it's not stated in the passage. Thankfully, logicians did not devise the British Constitution. It has evolved through the work of ordinary people who have adapted the government of the country to meet the needs of their age. They have always preserved sufficient flexibility to permit such adaptation, and we have avoided a lot of problems because we have never been guided in anything we have done by logic. If you study the period of history from the Civil War in the middle of the 17th century to the ascension of George I in 1714, you will see the benefits of not making the Constitution too rigid by writing it down. It proves how much there is to be said for ignoring logic and following common sense. Okay, so I think that this passage trades quite heavily on the flexibility of the Constitution and being in some way illogical. It may be the logical thing to do to make the Constitution flexible in this way. I don't think necessarily that the way that the British Constitution has been devised involved the ignoring of logic, and it certainly hasn't made it clear to us that that is the case in the passage. Let's have a look at the options. A, as the British Constitution was devised by logicians, it cannot be adapted to meet contemporary needs. Now, that wouldn't be an assumption, it's actually something it disagrees with. B, the need to write down the British Constitution became inevitable over time, irrelevant. C, Britain was fortunate that its constitution evolved flexibly as a result of the work of ordinary people. That's not an assumption, it says that quite clearly in the passage. D, it is not possible to follow both logic and common sense because they will always produce different results. I think that this could be an underlying assumption. It says, for ignoring logic and following common sense, it sets them out as necessarily contradictory, which I'm not sure they are. E, it is always right to ignore logic and follow common sense because such course of action produces the best results. I don't think it goes so far as to require E. In this particular case, it says it was better off that we ignored logic and we followed common sense. But it may not be that in general we should ignore logic and follow common sense. So I think the answer is D. Question 30. How many of the competing teams could win the league when all the games have been completed? Towards the end of a sports season in which all teams in the league play each other 4 times, the league positions are as follows. 3 points are awarded for a win, 1 point per draw, and 0 for a loss. At the end of the season, if 2 teams have the same number of points, the league will be decided by the highest number of games won. How many competing teams could win the league when all the games have been completed? Figure out for each team how many games do they play. Each team plays 5 other teams, and they play them 4 times. So each team plays 20 games. Okay, so East Rovers has 4 games left to play, West Athletic 6, North Rangers 3, South United 3, Top Down 7, and Bottom Albion 5. Let's start from the bottom. Let's say Bottom Albion were to win each of their 5 remaining games. The maximum number of points they would have is 15. So then they would now be at 30 points. Okay, even then they would still lose because East Rovers already has 31 points. If East Rovers were to win their to lose even the next 4 games, they would still have 31 points. So Bottom Albion cannot win. Okay, Top Town. Let's say Top Town were to win all 7 of their next games. They would then have 21 more points. So then they would be brought to a total of 38. Okay, so it seems at this point that they would still be in the chance of winning. South United, let's say they were to win all 3 of their next 3 games. They would have 6 more points. They would have 9 more points, and they would have 31 points. Same for North Rangers. Okay, so at that point, both of these would be drawing with East Rovers or each other. To then the game would be decided by the highest number of games won. So their total number of games won would then be 9 and 7 respectively. South United could not win because East Rovers would still have won 8 games. So South United still cannot win. North Rangers would be able to win then. So I think North Rangers are still capable of winning the league. West Athletic, let's say they win all 6 of their remaining games. They would have 6 times 3, 18 more points. So it seems clear that they are in a chance of winning with 41 points. Okay, so it seems to me that 1, 2, 3, 4 different teams could win. And the answer is D. We just completed 1 hour revision. Nice job. Let's have a quick break. At UniReach, we provide completely free online content and mentoring to help students from less advantaged backgrounds. We rely on the generosity of our mentors to volunteer their time and on donors to support our work. But if everyone that had watched an hour of our videos contributed just £2, this would enable us to significantly scale up our operations, going from helping hundreds of applicants a year to thousands. I'd like to think that our videos have provided you with at least £2 of value. If you agree, chip in at the link here. Question 31. What will be the price of the class I will take? I'm planning to take up a new hobby. There are a number of classes available locally, summarised in the table below. I do not want to have to leave home before 9:15 and I must be back by 4:15. I will choose the activity that is the cheapest per hour. Okay. Okay, let's start with the start times. Are there any activities that I definitely can't get to if I'm leaving by 9:15 and with the travel time? Well, 9:15 plus 50 minutes, I can't get to the 10 o'clock session. 9:30 minus 30 minutes, I'd have to leave at 9. That's too early, but I could make the other session. Pottery, 10 o'clock takes an hour. I'd have to leave by 9. That's not possible. 11 though I could catch. And then the writing, I'd have to leave at 9:50. That's fine. Okay, then let's look at arrive back times. This I would get home by 4:15. Get home by 4:15. Here, no, clearly ends too late. Pottery, ending at 1. That's fine. Writing, ending at 12:30 is fine, and at 3:30 is also fine. Okay. And now out of the remaining activities, I will choose the activity that's cheapest per hour. Okay, so we have the class prices, but these are not per hourly. Okay, so this is a 2-hour class, it's $15 per hour. This is a 2-hour 30-minute class. So 40 divided by 5 over 2 is the same as 40 times by 2 over 5, which is $16 per hour. Okay, so I'm not going to take that one. What about this one? This is a 2-hour class. Each hour costs $20. So it's not going to be that one. Writing, this is a 2-hour 30-minute class. 35 times by 2 over 5. It's going to be one. So it's going to be $14. Okay, so this is the cheapest so far. And then this one, this costs $24 for 1 hour and a half. So 2/3 of 24 to get the hourly cost is going to be $16. Okay, the cheapest is $14 per hour at a total cost of $35. The answer is C. Question 32. When viewed from the direction of the arrow, which one of the diagrams below is not a possible view of the remote control? Okay. My TV remote control is shown below. All the buttons stick out from the body of the remote control. So what do we know? We've got 5 evenly spaced buttons. And we've got these 2 in particular that are lining up to be halfway and at the end. Okay. So we're really looking for buttons that aren't possible here. Well, this one doesn't look possible, does it? Because where is this large button that's going more than a fifth of the way across starting? It needs to be at the front here. But there is no, but it's all the way back here. So what about all of these buttons? They should be in front of it. So this doesn't look possible to me. I think the answer is D. What I'll quickly do is run through why the other buttons do look possible. Right, this looks like your 5 buttons at the front. And then in the background here, we've got these 2 longer buttons. Same thing here, 5 buttons at the front, the background here, the 2 longer buttons. 5 buttons at the front, 2 longer buttons. Why do we have this second layer? Well, maybe this button here is a little bit shorter than this button here. And then E, 5 buttons at the front, and then the 2 longer buttons, but maybe these buttons are taller than these ones. So D is the only option that doesn't look possible. Question 32. Which one of the following, if true, most weakens the above argument? Most city centres in the UK are now covered by sophisticated CCTV cameras which can record crimes being committed. Many towns and cities report a reduction in crime when cameras are installed. Or Airdrie reported a 75% fall in crime and King's Lynn reported a massive 90% reduction. Thus, there is a real success in controlling opportunistic crime. Okay, so all we have here is a correlation. Anything that undermines that correlation being read as a causation is going to successfully weaken the argument. So any other factors that were introduced over this time period that actually are better explaining the fall in crime, or anything that suggests that the correlation is the other way, then actually the reason we have the CCTV cameras is because a fall in crime is going on or is expected to go on. So let's look at the options. A, not all cameras are manned and recording. No, that doesn't undermine the passage. Maybe it's the presence of the cameras acting as a deterrent. B, the cameras tend to be sited only in the centres of towns and cities. That doesn't seem to undermine. It seems likely that there's no reason to think that the crimes aren't being committed in the centres of the towns and cities. C, CCTV usually forms part of anti-crime packages which include an extra police response. Yes, exactly. So this is suggesting that there's third factors which may be responsible for the decline in crime rather than the introduction of the cameras. D, the cameras are an overreaction to the actions of a small minority. This is not a normative argument. It's not saying whether they should be there or they shouldn't be there, but whether they were successful at their goal. E, the camera images are often too poor quality to be of use in court convictions. No, they, as I say, may be useful as a deterrent or in other settings than in courts. Question 34. Which one of the following is the best statement of the flaw in the above argument? Flaw being something within the passage that undermines the validity of the conclusion. Right? There's a reason why, even if the premises are true, the conclusion doesn't necessarily have to be true. All British students should study a foreign language at school. We live in a rapidly expanding global market, where knowledge of foreign language is essential if you want to work at the highest level. If all students studied a foreign language at school, there will be more British people at the heart of global business. Okay, so this jumps from it is useful in global business to speak a foreign language to more British people, to if more people in the UK learn a foreign language, there'll be more people at the heart of global business. But this assumes, I think, that the limiting factor on the number of British people in British business is the number of British people who speak a foreign language. It may be there's other factors that are limiting that more powerfully. So let's look at the options. A, the writer treats a necessary condition as a sufficient condition. Exactly. So this it's necessary to maybe interact at a global level in business to speak other languages, but that doesn't necessarily mean that if you speak at a sufficient level of those languages, that you will necessarily be successful, that that's sufficient for you to be successful in global business. That's exactly right. B, the writer treats a sufficient condition as a necessary condition. When we look at these passages, we can take what they're claiming as true up until the conclusion, and then work on that basis. And here it does say that it is a necessary condition. It says that it's essential in order to work at the highest level. Let's treat that as a fact and then say, does the conclusion that they want to reach make sense from that set of facts? C, the writer draws a general conclusion from one example. I don't think that's the problem here. D, the writer assumes that there's a causal connection on the basis of correlation. No, we don't actually talk about any correlations here. E, the writer assumes that because this happened in the past, it will happen again. So it doesn't actually make a judgment on the basis of past knowledge explicitly. And secondly, this isn't necessarily unreasonable. Question 35. Which one of the following best expresses the main conclusion of the above argument? Paying bonuses of at least £1 million to high-flying stockbrokers and employees of banks cannot be justified. Such massive bonuses encourage these high flyers to take unacceptable risks with shareholders' assets in the pursuit of profits. Furthermore, the system discourages our brightest young talent from taking jobs in industry, where the rewards are much more modest, but where there is a greater need for such talent, or great need for such talent. One of the reasons why city firms, i.e. London-based financial organisations, can pay such bonuses is that they charge enormous fees for assisting with takeover bids between companies. City firms often encourage companies to engage in such takeover battles, but the costs for these frequently unsuccessful battles fall on the companies and thus on the consumer. So I think the conclusion it's driving towards is the one that it started with, which is that these bonuses are just unjustifiable. And the way that it drives towards that conclusion, it says, well, first of all, they encourage people to take unnecessary risks. Second of all, they deter the brightest young talent from where they may be better used. And third of all, they come from an unjustifiable source. So let's have a look at the options. A, the consumer ultimately has to pay for the city employees' very high bonuses. No, I think that's one of the reasons why it thinks these bonuses are unjustified, but the two other reasons have nothing to do with the consumer. B, the payment of very large bonuses to city employees is unacceptable. Yes, I think this is the conclusion. C, very large bonuses encourage city firms to take unjustifiable risks. No, this is one of the three reasons it gives for its conclusion. D, city firms should not encourage companies to engage in takeover battles. No, this is something that it uses to undergird one of its reasons, the third reason. E, if city employees were not paid very high bonuses, they would work in industry. Again, one of the reasons to justify the main conclusion, which is we shouldn't give these bonuses. Question 36. How much do the organisers hope that the autographs will raise? The film star has agreed to sign autographs for £1 each at a charity function, all day from 9 AM to 6 PM. He claims to sign his name consistently 10 times every minute, but insists on having a 10-minute break after each full hour of signing. How much do the organisers hope that the autographs will raise? Okay, so how many autographs is he going to sign? And then we just multiply that by £1 to figure out how much money we're going to raise from it. So he's going to be working for 9 AM to 6 PM, so that is 9 hours. Okay, now let's see how many you can do an hour. Hopefully it fits neatly. So let's have a look. Every minute he does 10. okay? But he insists on having a 10-minute break after each full hour. Okay. So let's say the first hour he works consistently, he does 10 a minute, so 10 times 60 minutes, he does 600 signatures, he has a 10-minute break. Okay, so what I want to do is figure out, in these 9 hours, how many 10-minute breaks is he having, and then we can figure out how many full sections of 600 autographs he's signing. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide 9 by 1 1/6, because this is the time it takes to do the full section of 600 autographs and a 10-minute break. So how do we do that? Very simple. 9 divided by 7 over 6, which is the same as 9 times 6 over 7, which is 54 over 7, which is going to be 7 and 5 over 7. Okay, so he does 7 and 5 over 7. So 7, this is how many sets he does. Each set has 600 signatures. So 7 times 600 gives us our 4,200 signatures. And then he does 5/7 of a set. Now, what we're going to do is recognise that in the 5/7 of a set, only the last 10 minutes are going to be the break. And so the first 5/7, which are the relevant sections here, are all going to be the autographs. And each seventh is a set of 10 minutes. He's doing 10 minutes times 5, he's doing 50 minutes of autographs. And we know that each minute he does 10 signatures, so he's doing 500 additional autographs. So we add that to this until he signs 4,700. And that's how much money we raise. Question 37. How many 1-ton bags are necessary to complete the mulching of the 2 plots? A garden has to apply mulch to 2 plots of land, measuring 10 metres by 5 metres and 15 metres by 20 metres. The mulch is to be applied to a depth of 50 millimetres for the first plot and 100 millimetres for the second plot. The mulch weighs 0.65 tonnes per cubic metres. Okay, so we have 2 plots. One is 10 by 5, so like this, and the other is 15 by 20, like this, something like that. Okay, not very to scale, but there you go, get the idea. The first has a depth of 50 millimetres, and the second has a depth of 100 millimetres. And helpfully they provided a table here to help us calculate the quantity in cubic metres. Okay, by the area coverage. So what we know for the first plot is it's this one, it's the 50 millimetre depth. What is the area coverage? Well, the area coverage is going to be 5 by 10, so it's 50. Okay, so it's going to be exactly in between these two, so it's going to be 2.5 cubic metres. And then for the second plot, well, we have 20 by 15, 300 metres squared. We don't have that here, but we have 100 metres squared, and so we just multiply that by 3 to get 30 cubic metres. Okay, so the total amount we need is 32.5 cubic metres, but we need to convert this to tonnes. And the way we do that is we multiply that by the 0.65 tonnes per cubic metre. Okay. Okay, 21.125 tonnes. The closest here is D at 22 tonnes. Question 38. What did I see across the road when I looked out this morning? I stayed in a hotel last night. My room was at the front of the building. At one point I looked out the window and saw this. An illuminated digital clock on the other side of the road. I took the opportunity to reset my watch, which had stopped some time earlier. This morning when I looked out, I realised that what I could see across the road was a reflection in the building opposite of a clock outside the hotel. According to my watch, which I now knew I'd set incorrectly last night, the time was supposedly 9 minutes past 10. Okay, so we need to figure out what the time actually was last night, the difference between the correct time and the time I inputted in my watch last night, and from that I'll be able to work backwards from the time that my watch says to the time it actually is now. And then from there we have to figure out what it looks like across the road. Okay, so if I looked across and it was reflected, how should this have actually looked? Well, for one, it would have been back to front. This would be a 2. This would still be a 0. and then these would be the other way around as well. So these would be 5s now. Okay, so it was 8:55 p.m. and I put into my watch 10:05, so I put an hour 10 minutes ahead. So whatever time it is on my watch, in reality, it's an hour and 10 minutes behind that time. So the watch now says 10:09. So let's go back an hour and 10 minutes. So that would give us 8:59. That's the correct time now. So what is it going to look like opposite? Or what does 8:59 look like? It looks like this. Okay, and to opposite, remember we start from back to front. So the last number is going to come first, and it's going to be like this. And then this is going to look like a 2. And then this is still going to look like an 8. And this is still going to look like a 0. So it's going to say something like backwards 9, 280. And that is E. Question 39. Which of the following conclusions is best supported by the passage above? Critics of homeopathic medicine argue that much of the apparent success of its remedies is due to the placebo effect. A placebo is a substance containing no medication. The remedies work because the patient believes they will work. In rebuttal, homeopaths often refer to a study involving a herd of pedigree Frisian cows. The herd was divided into 2 groups of 41 cows each. One group, the treatment group, was given a homeopathic remedy against mastitis, while the control group was given a placebo. The findings showed that 10 of the cows in the control group developed mastitis, while only 1 in the treatment group developed it. Okay, so the idea is that homeopathic medicine is criticised on the basis of the findings that you see when you do these studies are just based off the placebo effect. But then proponents of these homeopathic remedies did the studies in cows who presumably can't experience a placebo effect, and they found the same results or significant results, and so that would indicate that these results are not driven, at least in this case, by the placebo effect. When it's saying which of the following conclusions is best supported by the passage above, we need to be really careful. We can't say that all homeopathic remedies work, or that there's evidence now in support of all homeopathic remedies. What we can say is that in this specific case of this remedy, there's some indication that it's effective, at least in cows, and that the effects that it's been shown to have in humans may not be due to the placebo effect. Now notice that that's quite a reserved conclusion. Let's look at the options that match that. A, the beneficial effects of homeopathy are entirely due to the placebo effect. No, it's undermining that conclusion. B, the beneficial effects of homeopathy are apparent and not genuine. No, it's actually undermining that conclusion. It's giving some reason to think that maybe they are genuine. C, the beneficial effects of homeopathy in cows cannot be due to the placebo effect. Yes, I think that this is a reasonable conclusion from the passage. Let's see if there's any that can be reasonably said to go further. D, the beneficial effects of homeopathy are experienced only by animals. No, it may be the case that they're also experienced by humans, and there are other studies perhaps indicate that. E, the beneficial effects of homeopathy are subject to a great deal of ill-informed criticism. No, I think that's far too strong. We have some indication that maybe this criticism is misplaced, but that doesn't mean it's ill-informed, and it doesn't mean that the vast majority of it, or a great deal of it, is ill-informed or misplaced. So the answer is C. Question 40. Which one of the following is an underlying assumption of the above argument? Car owners must have insurance in case they have an accident. Similarly, homeowners have insurance in case anyone on their property is injured and claims compensation. However, insurance is not required for dog owners. Any injury caused by a dog is compensated by taking the owner to court, which is not easy. A law must be passed to make insurance compulsory for every dog owner. Any injuries would be paid for by the insurance companies, not long-suffering taxpayers. Whoa, okay. Long-suffering taxpayers. Big assumption here that in the case of the injuries that are taking place in the current system, the taxpayer is somehow footing the bill for that. It's unclear from this passage how the taxpayer is involved in this. But that's just one of the assumptions actually here. Another assumption is that if we made a law to make insurance compulsory for every dog owner, insurance companies would provide that insurance and be willing to pay for it. And then in the presence of this law, that would be sufficient to ensure that actually everything is handled effectively and the payments are made from the proper sources. So let's have a look at the options. A, dog owners would find it hard to pay for insurance. No, I don't think that's required for this to be true. That would actually undermine the passage. And she would suggest that insurance is not an effective solution. B, all insurance companies would want to participate in the scheme. It doesn't require that all insurance companies want to participate, but that enough do. C, all dog owners would obey the law. Yes, it does require that all dog owners would obey the law, yeah. So that is an underlying assumption. D, most injuries are caused by illegal breeds of dog. No, that would undermine the passage. It would suggest that perhaps illegal breeds of dog, maybe those are kind of the owners that wouldn't get insurance, and so maybe it wouldn't solve the problem because there'd be a lot of uninsured illegal dogs. E, injured parties can afford to take owners to court. No, it doesn't require that injured parties are able to take dog owners to court. In fact, in an insurance-based system, it may be less likely that you have to take things that far. Which one of the following, if true, would most weaken the above argument? The main reason private schools thrive in Britain is that they're extremely good at getting their students into elite universities. In the UK, only 7% of students attend private schools, but they account for 40% of students at Oxford and Cambridge. As entry to top universities depend on examination results, particularly A-level results, private school students must be achieving higher grades than those in the state sector. Higher grades are the result of good teaching, so the teaching in private schools must be better than teaching in state schools. Okay, so anything that undermines any of those chains of reasoning, so something to suggest that actually they're getting in not on the basis of their examination results, but based on other things, or that the high examination results aren't the result of good teaching, but on other factors. So let's have a look at the options. A, A-levels are not the only exams that are used for admission to Oxford or Cambridge. I think that's fine. That is true, okay, it doesn't undermine the case in the passage. It says particularly A-level results, but we can look at other examinations as well. B, only people from wealthy families go to private schools. You can see something of an argument here that, okay, this would account for a third factor to explain the high grades, but it isn't, I think, very clearly worded out. Let's keep it as an option for now. C, more than 40% of students at Oxford and Cambridge attended state schools. Irrelevant, we're talking about a disproportionately high number coming from private schools. D, a high proportion of private school candidates take A-levels than those from the state sector. Okay, so this is actually quite convincing. This is indicating that the private schools are not necessarily better at teaching, but that they do more of the teaching. And so that's why a disproportionately high proportion of students are coming from private school backgrounds, is that a disproportionately high proportion of those who take A-levels are coming from private school backgrounds. E, many private schools now accept scholarship students from poorer backgrounds. I think this is irrelevant because there's not going to undermine the case in the argument. Question 42. How many different combinations of questions are available for a candidate to choose from? An examination contains 5 questions. Candidates are instructed to answer 3 questions only, including at least one of the first 2 and no more than one of the last 2. Okay, so maximum options are 10, so I think we can just work through them. Let's have a look. A, B, C, D, E. Okay, so they're instructed to answer 3 questions, including at least one of the first 2 and no more than one of the last 2. Okay, so let's start with, if you begin with A. So you can have A, B, C. You could have A, B, D. You could have A, B, E. Okay, you could also have A, C, D, and A, C, E. You notice you couldn't have A, D, E. So we can stop there for the answers that begin with A. Okay, now you have to have at least one of the first 2. So let's say you begin with B. You can have B, C, D. You can have B, C, E. But you can't have B, D, E. Okay, so that's all the options. 1, 2, 3. Which would be the best trains to catch from Birmingham and Derby? Hester's going for a job interview. She needs to travel by railway between Birmingham and Derby, but needs to stop in Tamworth for an hour on the way. When at Derby, she needs an hour and a half to go to the prospective employer. She can fix her appointments for any time of the day. Naturally, she wants to make the journey the most efficient way, so it takes the least possible time. Okay, I think the best thing to do here is to check each of the options, whether they work and how long they take. So A, leaving Birmingham at 9. Okay, she would arrive at Tamworth at 9:30. It takes her an hour. She stops off for an hour, ready to go at 10:30. Takes 11:30 to get to Derby at 11:50. 11:50 spends an hour and a half in Derby, ready to go at 1:20. Okay, she's not ready for 12:15. Okay, B, she leaves Birmingham at 10. She gets to Tamworth 10:28, spends an hour there, ready to go at 11:28, takes 11:30, arrives at Derby 11:50, spends an hour and a half there, ready to go at 1:20. She takes the 2 o'clock and arrives at Birmingham at 3. So the total journey time was 5 hours. Okay, for C, she leaves Birmingham at 11. She gets to Tamworth at 11:30. She's ready to go at 12:30. She takes 12:45 to Derby at 1:05. 1:05, she spends an hour and a half at Derby, ready to go at 2:35. At 2:35, she takes a 3:20, and she arrives back in Birmingham by 4:12. Okay, so that works, and it's taken her 5 hours and 12 minutes. So this is longer than B. Okay, let's try D. She leaves Birmingham at 12. She gets to Tamworth 12:45, spends an hour there, 1:45, ready to go. Arrives at Derby at 2, spends an hour and a half in Derby, ready to go at 3:30, takes the 4:10, and gets back at 4:55. So this has taken her 4 hours and 55 minutes. Okay, so this is the fastest so far. Let's see if there's anything faster than that. And the final option is E. She leaves Birmingham at 1:30. Okay, she leaves Birmingham at 1:30. She gets to Tamworth by 1:45, spends an hour in Tamworth, takes the 2:45 back, takes the 2:45 to Derby, arrives 3:05, spends an hour and a half there, ready to go at 4:35, takes the 5 o'clock back, and arrives back in Birmingham by 6:15. So from 1:30 to 6:15, that is 4 hours and 45 minutes. That's the fastest time. E is the best option. Question 44, which of the following could not be an appearance of the die shown above after a subsequent throw? The die shown above is a conventional die, i.e. the total number of spots on any two opposite sides always adds up to 7. Okay, so we know the opposite of 5 here is the 2, and the opposite of 3 here is the 4, and the opposite of 1 is the 6. Okay, could not be the appearance of the die shown after a subsequent throw. So it needs to be the same die with the 5 and 3 and the 1 touching in this way. So let's try A first. So the 2 is here, and it's next to the 1 there, and the 4 there. Oh, this is possible, because if we imagine we flip this down like that and spin it around, the 2 is on top of the 1, and on to the right of the 1 is the 4, as in the diagram. So that looks exactly right. For B, 2, 3, and 6. Okay, so the interesting thing here will be the facing. Can the 2 face the 3 like this? It looks like it probably can. And then, okay, so which way is the 3 rotated here? Well, it's got to be like that, okay? And so we flipped it like this. And is it possible then that we have the 2 there and the 6 there? Yes, that looks about right to me. So I don't think the answer is B. Okay, what about C? Okay, so what we've clearly done is we've just flipped it around like that. And should the 4 be on the top? Yes, it should. What about D? We've got the... Okay, so D doesn't look possible because we've got the 3 here exactly as it is here. Is there any other way we can show the 3 like that? Well, maybe if we flipped the 3 around so that it was, as it's currently facing with the 5 on the left, then the 5 on the right, the 5 would now be on the left. But here the 5 is not on the left. Another key indication is, right, that this should be like this and facing there in the way that it is here, and it is not. So I think D is the answer. Let's have a look quickly at E. And E looks entirely possible, right, with just looking at the other side of the dice. So the answer is D. 45. Which one of the following best expresses the main conclusion of the above argument? Suppose a book begins with a sentence, dark clouds gathered. Does this mean that it is going to rain, or there's going to be a war, or something else no one had thought of? The traditional answer was, ask the author, or try to work out what the author intended it to mean. But this would not give you the answer, surprising though that may seem. Why not? Because what the words mean is what they mean to you, the reader, and to anyone else who speaks the language to which they belong. Authors can't change what words mean by intending something different any more than you can. What they say they mean is no more correct than anyone else's interpretation. Okay, so the main conclusion seems to be that your interpretation or anyone else's interpretation is no better than the author's, and that we can't necessarily gain anything useful about understanding the text from asking what the author meant by it. So let's look at the options. A, no one can give you an answer to the question, what does this sentence mean? No, it is not claiming that there's no answer. It's saying that you can actually take the answer from yourself or from others who have read the text. B, the traditional way to discover meaning was to find out what the author intended. No, it's going further than looking at the context. It's actually telling us how we should understand the meaning of the text. C, knowing what the author intended doesn't tell you what a sentence means. I think that's one conclusion. I think the conclusion it's driving towards is a little bit more than that, saying that we can find the meaning within our own readings and others' interpretations. But let's look at the other options. D, everyone understands something different when they read a sentence in a book. It's not necessarily saying that everybody's interpretation is going to be different. It's saying that what they say they mean is no more correct than anyone else's interpretation. Right? So it's not that everybody understands something different, but that everybody's understanding is perhaps equally valid, or as valid as the read of the writers. E, the sentence dark clouds gathered can have more than one meaning. I think that's something that can be reasonably inferred from the text, but I don't think it's the main conclusion of the text, which I think is best expressed by C. Which one of the following most closely parallels the reasoning used in the above argument? If you want to get a good job, you need to write a good application letter. You didn't get the last job you applied for, so you can't have written a good application letter. Okay, this is really simple. So if you want A, you need B. That is, B is a necessary condition of A. Then you need B. You didn't have A, so therefore you must not have had B. Okay, notice that this seems to be actually invalid. Just because B is a necessary condition of A doesn't mean that it's a sufficient condition. And so it may be the case that the reason you didn't get the last job you applied for wasn't that you didn't write a good application letter, but that you didn't meet one of the other necessary conditions, like you didn't have a good interview, or you didn't make a good impression in your written assessment that went with it. So let's look at the options. A, recording the best time in your heat would guarantee you a place in the final race. You don't have a place in the final, so you can't have recorded the best time in your heat. This, I think, is exactly it, even though the word phrasing is a little bit different. It's saying that B is necessary for A, you didn't get A, so therefore you must not have had B. So I think the answer is A, but let's look at the other options. To join the army, you need a physical examination. So to A, you need B. Since your health is very poor, since you don't have A, you won't get B. Okay, so this is different. It's not looking at the past, and also it's actually much more. And we can also tell that this doesn't work because this would be a valid conclusion, right? If B is a necessary condition for A, then it's perfectly reasonable to say that if you don't have B, then you won't get A. Unlike the invalid inference that the passage is making. C, you can't be part of the yachting team without a certificate to show you can swim. So A, entrance to the yachting team, requires B, a certificate to show you can swim. Since you were not allowed on the yachting team, since you didn't get A, you must not have had a certificate to show that you can swim. Yes. Okay, so I think this is also, let's backtrack a little bit because I think this is also a good candidate for the answer. So I'm going to return in a second to which one best matches the way that the passage is phrased. D, the manager will promote only people who have worked well in the previous year. Okay, and in order to be promoted, A, you need B to have worked well in the previous year. Since you've been working hard, you should expect promotion. No, clearly very different. The second sentence should go, since you didn't get a promotion last year, you must not have worked very hard or worked very well. So E, if you want to get to the meeting on time, if you want A, then you need B to leave within the next 20 minutes. Since you are nearly ready to leave, since you are nearly B, it seems to be, you should get to the meeting on time. So clearly this is very different. It's not talking about the past, and it's talking about, and it's applying it again in a reasonable way. Okay, let's choose between A and C. Recording the best time of your heat would guarantee you a place in the final race. So I think the difference here between A and C is that guarantee you a place in the final race is actually meaning that is actually now a necessary and sufficient condition, right? So recording the best time of your heat, B is now a necessary and sufficient condition for A. So now it's very reasonable to say that if you didn't get A, it must be that you didn't have B, which was a necessary and sufficient condition. So it cannot be A, the answer is C. Which of the following best expresses the principle underlying the argument above? The credit crisis has significantly damaged pensions and pensioners. Millions of people coming up to retirement now without a final salary pension are at risk of poverty. It is previous government policy decisions, not just the credit crisis, that are to blame. We have had a pensions crisis building up for the last few years. One should always take responsibility for one's mistakes. Therefore, the government must act. Here we go. One should always take responsibility for one's mistakes. That's the general idea that drives the conclusion of the passage. So let's have a look at the options. If I had not tried to carry so many plates at once, I would not have dropped some when I'd slipped, so I should replace the broken ones. Yes, I've made a mistake, and so I need to take responsibility for it. I think that's the answer. B, my dog always attacks people who come to the house, so I keep her in the back garden. It's not clear that there's a mistake involved here, so much as a risk. C, the government should take action to help people who have lost possessions in the recent floods. That's not a principle, that's just a statement or recommendation. D, we should all feel responsible for our own future security, so it is right the government provides a safety net. So this is a little bit different. It's talking about future security rather than past mistakes. If you said we should all be responsible for our own mistakes, so it's right that the government, so that maybe we pay for our own accidents, that would be a better application of the principle. E, while there are some situations for which we cannot plan, if we fail to ensure ourselves, we only have ourselves to blame. So it's very similar, right? But it's not talking about the allocation of blame, it's talking about responsibility. And I think responsibility also involves something larger about fixing the problem or taking the relevant action to make the situation better. So I think the answer is A. Question 48. Assuming the same usage this year, how many containers need to be delivered each quarter, January, April, July and October, in order for overordering to be minimised? Deliveries of containers for a fast food takeaway are made only 4 times per year, beginning of January, April, July and October. Last year the takeaway overordered containers currently has 2,000 left. The number of containers used per month varies, but no more than 3,000, no fewer than 1,000. Maximum number that can be delivered at any one time is 6,000. Okay, usage for last year illustrated. Assuming the same usage this year, how many containers need to be delivered each quarter in order for overordering to be minimised? Really important to note here. It's a really simple question. We just need to figure out how many containers are going to be used each quarter and then order the appropriate number. 2 complicating factors. 1, there's a limit on the amount that can be ordered in every given quarter at 6,000 and that we have 2,000 left. So the first complicating factor, the limit of 6,000, so we can't do these where they order more than 6,000. And the second complicating factor, that we need to have 1,000 left. Okay, let's figure out the usage each quarter. So first quarter we have 2 possibly plus 1, so that's 6. For April, May, July we have a usage of 7. For July, August and September we have a usage of 5. And for October, November, December we have a usage of 5 again, or 6. Okay, notice how this is going over by 1,000 of the limit. Okay, so what is the total amount we need in the year? It's 13 plus 11 is 24. But we have 2k left over, so we need 22,000. So first of all, we should check which options add up to 22,000. This is 24,000, too much. This is 4 plus 6, 10, plus 6, 16, plus 6. This is 22,000, so this might work. So that leaves it, and then this one, 11 plus 11, this is also 22,000. Okay, so let's see which one we prefer of A and E. Let's test A first. Does A work? Well, 5,000 in January. We have the 2k left over, so we have 1k excess at the end of this month, but it works. In April, we have 1k left over, and we have 6k order to meet 7k demand. That works. 5k for 5k demand, 6k for 6k demand. This looks like the answer. Let's check why E doesn't work. Well, in January, we've got 4k order plus 2k left over, 6k. Yes, but we've used up all our excess. So come the April quarter, we have 6k order, but we have 7k demand. We don't have enough containers. So the correct answer is A. Question 49. What is the lowest amount above 55p which must be made with at least 3 stamps? Table below shows the available denominations of British stamps in 2009. Okay, so we're going to check each of these options. The lowest amount above 55p which must be made with at least 3 stamps. So okay, so let's try to make 58p with these stamps. Let's try to make it with 2 stamps. Well, we could make it with 2 stamps. We could take the 56p and the 2p, so that can be made with 2 stamps. Okay, what about 65p? Well, we could take the 56p and the 9p. Seems like a very straightforward question. 68p, what about that? Can we do it with 61p? No. Can we do it with 56p and another coin? No. That would require a 12p coin, which we don't have. Can we do with 54p and another coin? That would require a 14p coin, which we don't have. Can we do it with 50p and another coin? That would require a 18p coin, which we don't have. Can we do with 47p and another coin? 68 plus 40 minus 47, that would require a 21p, which we don't have. Can we do with 39p and another coin? That would require a 27p, which we don't have. Can we do it with a 30p? Well, no, we would require 38p, so now we definitely can't do 68p. The answer is C. Okay, question 50. In how many different orders, left or right, can the trees appear in the photographs? 4 trees stand at the corners of square field X. They are photographed from field Y from every possible direction, close up and from a distance, but never so that one tree stands in front of another. In how many different orders, left or right, can the trees appear in the photograph? Okay, that's a very clever question. If we start maybe with this angle, we could have 4, 3, 2, 1, 2. Okay. Then maybe we stand over here, and then we've got 4, 1, 3, 2. Okay. Maybe we stand here now, and we have 1, 4, 3, 2. I think you'd have to stand quite far back, but it's maybe possible. Okay, let's say we stood over here, we could have 1, 4, 2, 3. And then maybe if we stood over here, we could have 1, 2, 4, 3. So I think those are all the options. How many are there? There are 5, which is the maximum available.